They erased my name from the exhibit thinking I'd stay invisible, but they never expected the archives to remember everything. Nora was 41, a conservator in a coastal museum in Galway, the kind of place tourists wandered through on rainy afternoons. She loved quiet work, mending paper tears, cataloging ship logs, listening to history breathe between the lines. Her hands steadied when others rushed. For 12 years, she'd been the one who rescued waterlogged maps and salt-stained letters, the one who made sense of fragments. When the museum announced a flagship exhibit on a 19th-century rescue vessel, Nora took it personally. Her grandmother's journals described that ship from the inside: weather, fear, courage, scribbled in ink that still smelled faintly of iron. Nora spent months verifying dates, tracing donors, and stabilizing the journals so they could finally be displayed. She worked nights, alone with a desk lamp and tea gone cold. At the press preview, she stood at the back, palms damp, waiting to see the credits panel. It scrolled past curators, designers, consultants. Her name never appeared. Instead, a younger hire took questions and smiled for photos, describing the team's work with polished ease. Applause bounced off glass cases. Nora felt something loosen in her chest, not anger yet, just disbelief. The days that followed were worse. Requests she'd routed through proper channels vanished. Her emails went unanswered. A donor called to ask why details he'd shared privately were presented inaccurately. The exhibit looked beautiful, but the facts wobbled. Dates conflicted. A captain was misnamed. A storm route bent impossibly east. Nora corrected a label quietly. It was changed back the next morning. She went home and opened the archive ledger she kept for herself, a habit she'd learned from old librarians. It wasn't secret, just meticulous. Every accession, every conservation step, every citation, time-stamped and cross-referenced. She'd learned that memory fades, but records don't. Over the next week, she assembled a neutral brief. No accusations, just a map of provenance, where each artifact came from, when it was stabilized, which sources supported which claims. She attached scans of the journal's marginal notes that contradicted the exhibit narrative, and the conservation logs proving when the work was done. She sent it to the museum's collections committee, copying the insurer because accuracy mattered to coverage. Procedure, nothing more. The response was swift and bloodless. A closed meeting, a pause on guided tours, an independent review. Journalists returned, curious about the delay. The committee asked for clarifications. Nora answered calmly, citing folio numbers like coordinates. 2 days later, the museum issued a correction. Labels were updated, credits were revised. A quiet addendum acknowledged significant archival and conservation leadership by Nora. The younger hire was reassigned to research support. No public shaming, just a rebalancing that felt like gravity restored. Visitors began stopping longer at the journals, reading the cramped handwriting that smelled of storms. One afternoon, an elderly man pressed Nora's hand and said his great-uncle had sailed that vessel. He thanked her for getting it right. Nora didn't celebrate. She returned to her bench and finished mending a torn chart, smoothing fibers until the seam disappeared. She understood something then that history teaches softly. Justice doesn't need volume. It needs accuracy. You can erase a name from a wall, but you can't erase the work that holds the wall up. When the truth is cataloged carefully, it doesn't argue. It waits until it's time to be seen.